Your life does not need years to change. It does not need luck, permission, or perfect conditions. It needs focus, commitment, and decision. 90 days is all it takes to completely shift the direction of your life if you stop drifting and start executing with intention. Most people stay stuck because they think transformation is some distant event far in the future. But the truth is, change accelerates when timeframes are tight and actions are deliberate. 90 days is short enough to stay locked in and long enough to produce undeniable results. The next 3 months can either be another season of excuses, distractions, and regret, or they can be the foundation of the best year of your life. What separates the people who transform from the people who stay the same is not intelligence, resources, or talent. It is the ability to decide, commit, and follow through consistently. Over the next 90 days, every habit you build, every action you take, and every decision you make will either move you closer to the life you want or keep you exactly where you are. This is not about motivation. This is about structure. This is about systems. This is about discipline applied daily. If you follow the right plan with total commitment, your future will not be a matter of chance. It will be a matter of choice. And those choices begin right now. 90 days is not a random number. It is long enough to produce visible, measurable results, yet short enough to keep your mind locked in without drifting into complacency. Most people fail because they set goals that are so far away, they never feel real. 1 year feels abstract. 5 years feels overwhelming. But 90 days creates urgency. It forces focus. It removes the illusion that you have unlimited time. When you know the clock is ticking, your behavior changes. You stop procrastinating. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop saying, "I'll do it tomorrow," because tomorrow is already scheduled. 90 days puts pressure on your habits, your priorities, and your excuses. And pressure reveals truth. What makes 90 days powerful is that it aligns with how humans actually change. Real transformation doesn't happen in one emotional moment. It happens through repetition. It happens when actions are done long enough to rewire identity. In 90 days, behaviors start turning into habits. Habits start shaping character. Character starts producing results. This is why people who fully commit for 90 days often look unrecognizable on the other side. Not just physically or financially, but mentally. Their confidence shifts. Their standards rise. Their tolerance for excuses disappears. 90 days also removes the lie that change requires perfect conditions. You don't need the perfect job, the perfect schedule, or the perfect support system. You need a plan and the willingness to execute despite discomfort. 90 days forces you to work with what you have instead of waiting for what you want. When the timeline is short, you stop over-planning and start doing. You stop consuming information endlessly and start applying it aggressively. Action becomes more valuable than preparation. Another reason 90 days works is because it creates momentum quickly. Momentum is the real secret behind lasting success. Motivation fades. Willpower runs out. Momentum carries you forward when emotions fluctuate. In the first few weeks, progress may feel slow, but around day 30, something shifts. Small wins start stacking. Discipline feels less forced. Results start showing. By day 60, consistency begins to feel normal. By day 90, what once felt difficult now feels automatic. This momentum becomes a launch pad rather than a finish line. 90 days also simplifies life. Instead of juggling endless priorities, you narrow your focus. You decide what matters most and temporarily deprioritize everything else. This clarity reduces mental noise. When your brain knows exactly what the mission is for the next 3 months, decision fatigue disappears. You don't debate whether to work out, study, or execute. The decision was already made. You simply follow the plan. This level of simplicity is rare, and that is why it is powerful. Most people underestimate how much progress can happen in 90 days because they overestimate what they can do in 1 week. They quit early because results don't show up immediately. But compound effort does not announce itself loudly at first. It whispers. 90 days gives compound effort time to speak. It allows small disciplined actions to grow into undeniable outcomes. This is why transformation seems sudden from the outside, but feel earned from the inside. When you fully commit to a 90-day window, you stop flirting with change and start embodying it. You stop asking if it will work and start proving that it does. 90 days is not about perfection. It is about persistence. It is about showing up even when you are tired, bored, frustrated, or doubting yourself. That level of commitment changes how you see yourself, how you trust yourself, and how you move through the world, because once you prove you can stay locked in for 90 days, you stop questioning whether you are capable of more. Consistency is the invisible force that turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results. Most people think success comes from intensity, from moments of inspiration where everything suddenly changes, but real transformation is built quietly through repetition. Motivation is emotional. It rises and falls depending on mood, circumstances, and comfort. Consistency is behavioral. It operates regardless of how you feel. That is why consistency always outperforms motivation. If you rely on motivation, you will work only when you feel good. If you rely on consistency, you will work because it is who you are becoming. In a 90-day window, consistency is what keeps you moving when the excitement fades. The first few days feel easy because the idea of change feels fresh. You feel energized. You feel hopeful. But around week 2 or 3, reality sets in. The work is still there. The results may not be obvious yet. This is where most people quit. Not because the plan is wrong, but because they were depending on feelings instead of systems. Consistency removes feelings from the equation. You don't ask yourself if you feel like doing the work. You ask yourself if this is what you committed to, and then you act. Consistency works because it compounds. One workout does not change your body. One focused work session does not change your career. One healthy meal does not change your energy. But when those actions are repeated daily, they stack. The body responds. The mind sharpens. Confidence grows. After 90 days, the results are not just visible, they are undeniable. What felt insignificant on day 1 becomes powerful by day 90. This is why people underestimate consistency. They judge it by short-term results instead of long-term accumulation. Another reason consistency matters is identity. Every time you show up and do what you said you would do, you reinforce trust in yourself. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who finishes. This internal shift is more valuable than external results. When you become consistent, discipline becomes part of your character, not something you borrow temporarily. You stop needing external pressure because internal standards take over. Consistency also creates stability in chaotic environments. Life does not slow down because you decided to improve. Problems will still show up. Stress will still exist. Distractions will still compete for your attention. Consistency anchors you. It gives you non-negotiables. No matter how unpredictable the day becomes, your core actions remain the same. This stability protects progress. It ensures that external chaos does not sabotage internal growth. Systems are what make consistency possible. Systems remove choice. When you decide in advance when, where, and how you will act, you reduce friction. You are no longer relying on willpower. You are following a routine. This is why successful people obsess over structure. They don't wait to feel ready. They build schedules that force execution. Over 90 days, systems turn effort into habit and habit into lifestyle. Consistency also exposes weaknesses. When you commit to showing up daily, you confront resistance, laziness, fear, doubt, excuses. These things don't disappear on their own. They surface when you try to be consistent. This is not failure, this is feedback. It shows you exactly what needs to be addressed internally. Avoiding consistency keeps these issues hidden. Embracing consistency forces growth. The people who change their lives in 90 days are not more talented than everyone else. They are not more gifted. They are not more lucky. They simply did the right things longer than others were willing to. Consistency separates those who talk from those who transform. It is the bridge between intention and outcome. It is the quiet discipline of doing what matters daily, even when no one is watching, even when results are delayed, even when comfort is tempting, because consistency does not negotiate. It executes. Clear goal setting is what turns effort into direction and movement into progress. Without clear goals, action becomes random and energy gets wasted. Many people work hard every day but remain stuck because their effort is not aligned with a defined destination. In a 90-day window, clarity is everything. You cannot afford vague intentions or emotional wishes. You need goals that tell you exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to measure success. When goals are unclear, procrastination thrives. When goals are specific, execution becomes inevitable. A clear goal gives your brain something concrete to chase. The mind performs best when it has a target. When you know exactly what you are working toward, distractions lose their power. You stop reacting to everything around you and start responding to what matters most. In a 90-day plan, your goal should be precise enough that there is no confusion about whether you are winning or losing. You should be able to look at your progress at any moment and know where you stand without guessing. Breaking a goal down into smaller units is what makes it achievable. Big goals overwhelm the mind, but daily actions feel manageable. When you divide a 90-day goal into weekly objectives and daily tasks, the pressure decreases and focus increases. You no longer worry about the entire journey. You only worry about today's assignment. This approach builds confidence because each completed action becomes proof that progress is happening. Momentum grows not from dreaming, but from completing small commitments consistently. Daily execution is where most people fail, not because they lack ability, but because they lack structure. A goal without a daily execution plan is just a desire. Execution turns ideas into results. When you know exactly what needs to be done each day, there is no room for hesitation. The decision was already made when the plan was created. You simply follow instructions. This removes emotional resistance and reduces the likelihood of quitting when motivation dips. Writing goals down makes them real. When goals stay in your head, they are easily ignored. When they are written and visible, they become part of your environment. Seeing your goal daily reinforces commitment and keeps your mind aligned with your objective. This constant exposure trains your subconscious to look for solutions, opportunities, and resources that support your progress. Over time, your behavior begins to match your vision without conscious effort. Daily execution also builds discipline through repetition. Each day you complete your assigned actions, you strengthen your ability to follow through. You stop seeing discipline as something difficult and start seeing it as something normal. Over 90 days, execution reshapes your identity. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to believe that when you say you will do something, it will get done. This internal confidence becomes a competitive advantage in every area of life. Clear goals also create focus. Focus is not about doing more. It is about doing less with intention. When you know your priorities, you stop wasting energy on low-impact activities. You stop confusing movement with progress. Execution becomes strategic instead of scattered. Every action serves a purpose. Every effort moves the needle. This level of focus accelerates results and reduces burnout because your energy is invested wisely. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in 90 days with consistent execution. Clear goals correct this mistake. They prevent unrealistic expectations while still demanding disciplined effort. Over time, the accumulation of daily execution produces results that feel sudden to outsiders, but feel earned to you. Goal setting combined with execution transforms ambition into achievement, because when clarity meets action day after day, progress becomes unavoidable and success stops being a hope and starts becoming a pattern. Massive action is the accelerator. That turns plans into breakthroughs. Knowledge without action does nothing. Intention without execution changes nothing. Over a 90-day period, the difference between average results and extraordinary outcomes is not intelligence or opportunity. It is the volume and consistency of action taken. Most people hesitate, they overthink. They wait for clarity, confidence, or perfect conditions. Winners move first and adjust along the way. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. When you commit to massive action, you accept that mistakes are part of the process. Progress is messy. Results are not linear. Some actions will fail, some will succeed, but every action provides feedback. The problem is not failure, the problem is inaction. Over 90 days, the person who takes imperfect action daily will outperform the person who waits for the perfect plan. Momentum rewards movement, not hesitation. Focus is what gives massive action its power. Without focus, action becomes noise. With focus, even small actions become force multipliers. This is why elimination of distractions is critical. Distractions dilute energy. They fragment attention. They steal time without announcing themselves. Social media, unnecessary meetings, endless notifications, and mindless consumption slowly drain momentum. Over 90 days, these distractions can cost hundreds of hours. Eliminating them does not require perfection, it requires intention. You decide what deserves your attention, and you protect it aggressively. Single tasking is one of the most powerful habits you can develop during this period. Multitasking feels productive, but produces shallow work and slow progress. When you focus on one important task at a time and complete it fully, efficiency increases and quality improves. Deep focus shortens timelines. What takes hours with distractions can take minutes with full attention. Over 90 days, this difference compounds into massive gains. Massive action also builds confidence. Confidence is not something you wait for, it is something you earn. Each completed action sends a message to your brain that you are capable. This internal reinforcement creates courage. Courage leads to bigger actions. Bigger actions lead to bigger results. The cycle feeds itself. People who lack confidence often lack evidence. Action creates evidence. Eliminating distractions also strengthens discipline. When you say no to distractions, you are saying yes to your future. You train yourself to delay gratification. You choose long-term growth over short-term comfort. This ability separates high performers from everyone else. Comfort feels good today, but discipline pays dividends tomorrow. Over 90 days, repeated discipline rewires priorities and sharpens focus. Another key element of massive action is urgency. Urgency does not mean rushing, it means respecting time. When you treat each day as valuable, you stop wasting it. You stop assuming there will always be more time later. 90 days creates a natural deadline that fuels urgency. Every day matters. Every decision counts. This awareness sharpens execution and increases intensity. Massive action does not mean burnout. It means deliberate effort focused on high-impact activities. It means identifying what actually moves the needle and doubling down on it. Busy work is not massive action. Strategic action is. When effort is aligned with purpose, energy increases instead of draining. Progress feels meaningful. Work feels intentional. Over 90 days, the person who takes consistent, focused, and courageous action becomes unstoppable. Momentum builds, resistance weakens, results begin to stack. What once felt impossible starts to feel inevitable. Massive action combined with focus and elimination of distractions creates a level of progress that most people never experience because most people never commit fully. And once you experience what focused execution feels like, you stop tolerating distractions, excuses, and delay because you finally understand that action is not just what you do. It is who you decide to become. Accountability, habit formation, and personal ownership are the final deciding factors that determine whether the next 90 days transform your life or leave you exactly where you started. You can have a perfect plan, clear goals, and strong intentions, but without accountability, it becomes easy to lie to yourself. Humans are excellent at justifying comfort and postponing responsibility. Accountability removes escape routes. It creates external pressure that reinforces internal commitment. When someone else knows what you committed to, excuses lose their power. Accountability works because it forces honesty. You can ignore a plan in your notebook, but it is much harder to ignore a person who expects results. This is why high performers surround themselves with coaches, mentors, or partners who hold them to standards higher than their moods. Over a 90-day period, regular check-ins create structure. They turn vague effort into measurable progress. You stop asking yourself if you tried hard enough and start proving it with evidence. Habit formation is what makes progress sustainable. Willpower fades. Discipline fluctuates. Habits remain. When actions become habitual, they require less energy and less emotional resistance. This is why habits are powerful during a 90-day transformation. Around the 2-month mark, repeated behaviors start to feel automatic. What once required effort begins to feel natural. This shift is critical because it ensures that progress continues even after the 90 days are complete. Habits shape identity. Every repeated action casts a vote for the type of person you are becoming. When you show up daily, you begin to see yourself as disciplined. When you follow through consistently, you begin to trust yourself. This identity shift is often more valuable than external results. When you believe you are the type of person who finishes what they start, you raise your standards in every area of life. You stop negotiating with your potential. Personal ownership is the foundation that supports accountability and habit formation. Ownership means taking full responsibility for your life without blaming circumstances, people, or past experiences. When you take ownership, you reclaim control. You stop waiting for permission. You stop hoping things will change. You become the one who initiates change. This mindset is uncomfortable at first because it removes excuses, but it is also empowering. Because it restores agency. Ownership changes how you respond to challenges. Instead of asking why this is happening to me, you ask what can I do about it? This question keeps you in motion. It keeps you focused on solutions rather than problems. Over 90 days, this response pattern compounds into resilience. You become harder to derail because setbacks no longer feel personal. They feel instructional. Accountability also strengthens consistency. When you know someone is watching your progress, you are more likely to show up on days when motivation is low. This external pressure supports internal discipline until habits take over. Over time, the need for external accountability decreases because standards become self-enforced. What began as structure becomes character. Habit formation requires specificity. Vague intentions do not create habits. Clear actions do. When habits are tied to specific times, locations, and behaviors, they are easier to execute. Small habits performed daily outperform large efforts performed inconsistently. Over 90 days, small disciplined actions accumulate into massive results without overwhelming the mind. Personal ownership also eliminates victim thinking. Victim thinking focuses on what is unfair. Ownership focuses on what is possible. This shift in perspective changes energy. It replaces helplessness with determination. Over time, this mindset attracts better opportunities because people trust those who take responsibility for outcomes. The combination of accountability, habits, and ownership creates momentum that does not depend on mood or circumstances. It creates reliability. Reliability builds confidence. Confidence fuels courage. Courage leads to action. Action produces results. This cycle reinforces itself over 90 days until discipline becomes natural and excuses feel foreign. Most people do not fail because they lack information. They fail because they avoid responsibility for execution. The next 90 days will test your willingness to show up consistently, to tell yourself the truth, and to take responsibility even when it is uncomfortable. Because when you commit to accountability, build habits intentionally, and take full ownership of your life, transformation stops being a possibility and becomes a predictable outcome driven by daily choices rather than chance.